So Martin, where did all of these things begin?
Yeah, because is it a new world order, a new idea that's just been implemented now?
Every pope has spoken about it in the last few years since Vatican II in 1962. All right, let's have a look at this situation from even those that are unhappy with what is happening in Catholicism, even within Catholic circles.
Yeah, they are Catholic.
They are
the
Roman
more,
Catholics.
Yes, the more conservative, wishing for the old Catholic Church.
Pre-Vatican II. Let's listen to what they say.
The missing link surfaces at last. New video of Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, connecting the dots between revolution in the Catholic Church 60 years ago and the Great Reset. Why did they get rid of Pope Benedict and install Jose Mario Bergoglio to the chair of St. Peter? And what's the connection between the global lockdowns of today and a bizarre middle-of-the-night ceremony that took place some 55 years ago, deep in the catacombs beneath the streets of Rome?
92-year-old Father Luigi Battazzi is the last known survivor of a secret pact that experts say may have influenced Pope Francis. Signed 50 years ago at the time of Vatican II by Catholic bishops in this underground church in Rome. Called the Pact of the Catacombs, it vowed to create a poor church for the poor, the same church Pope Francis says he wants today.
I always say that Pope Francis is the new Catacombs Pact.
And they decide, for example, to refuse, for example, to be called Eminency, Monsignor, so they wanted to be called like Father. And we can say, for example, that they decide to refuse all the insignia.
Okay.
And when I say insignia, it means
like the cross, the rings.
Yeah, not the, yeah.
This included, obviously, doing away with the papal tiara, or the crown, the symbol of the Pope's ruling authority, which has been there for 1,000 years. From 1143, in fact, to 1963, the papal tiara was solemnly placed on the Pope's head during the papal coronation. Pope Paul VI was crowned Pope. He wasn't inaugurated, he was crowned. And they got rid of that institution of the monarchy at every level in the Catholic confessional states for the 100 years before that. And finally, they got rid of the idea of crowning the Pope. He no longer was a monarch. He was more like a president, which is exactly where they wanted it. So in 1964, Pope Paul VI renounces that crown, and the popes have never been crowned since. And after his mass, we're talking about Francis now, after his massive inauguration in 2013, he said that he wanted a poor church for the poor people. You remember this?
Come vorrei una chiesa povera e per I poveri.
Quote, "We will do our utmost so that those responsible for our government and for our public services make and put into practice laws, structures, and social institutions required by justice and charity, equality, and the harmonic and holistic development of all men and women, and by this means bring about the advent of another and new social order," end quote. Also known as the New World Order. Bishop Helder Camara, or Camara, to anglicize it, the self-identified socialist archbishop from Brazil, whom Francis would declare a servant of God in 2015. He is the role model of one Jorge Mario Bergoglio. It was Archbishop Camara who on November 16th, 1965, led 42 powerful council fathers, bishops, down into the catacombs to sign the Catacombs Pact. There's a bit more on that.
And they also vowed to put pressure on international organizations to help change the economic structures which they said exploit the poor. These are all points that are remarkably similar to Pope Francis's agenda for the church today.
He's got one more point on his resume. He was a major influence on a young Klaus Schwab.
I give you one example which for me was probably a crucial moment in my life. I traveled for the first time to Brazil. I met a priest who was known at that time as the priest of the poor people. His name was Don Elde Camara. And he brought me to the favelias of Recife, and I was so shocked. And I said, I have to invite this bishop to Davos to tell the people what poverty is. So I invited him to the annual meeting in Davos, but then when I came back in Switzerland, I found out that actually he was forbidden at that time to speak in Switzerland because he was considered to be a communist. And I said, this is for me a test. But then I noticed that many companies told me, if you invite this person who is so much against business, we will not come to Davos anymore. And that's where I had to stand to my values. Even at the risk that I would have to give up the World Economic Forum.
Wow.
But it went very well. I have to say, the audience in Davos listened to him.
They also vowed to put pressure on international organizations to help change the economic structures which they said exploit the poor. These are all points that are remarkably similar to Pope Francis's agenda for the Church today.
It's the same revolution. It's the same players, in fact. The Great Reset was indeed hatched in a catacomb beneath the streets of Rome at the close of the Second Vatican Council in 1965. And it just took a while to get to the point politically where it is now. But it's the same movement.
Martin, it actually comes from a little bit earlier. Rerum novarum. Catholic social doctrine. The world has to be restructured. So what we've seen now is that the World Economic Forum is nothing other than the organization that is to drive the papal agenda.
That's it.